So here we are.
We're doing a paranormal talk.
It's been 7 months.
It has been. It's been too long, actually. So really excited to do another one.
Yes, and especially with our guest tonight.
Yes.
Because we've had a couple opportunities now to spend some time with him.
And I actually met him at Vulture City.
Vulture City.
Yeah. Reacquainted even better this past Paracon we did it in Globe.
Yep. Our Ghost of Globe Paracon #1, which there's going to be a #2, so that's exciting.
Yeah. It turned out great.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool people. Had a great time. You and I had the pleasure of kind of emceeing the whole day, which was a lot of fun.
It was a blast. We met a lot of great people, and now we get to interview one of those great people again.
Yes.
This time for a full episode. Right.
This has been a long time coming. So without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Joe Thompson.
Hey,
how
Joe.
are you?
How's it going?
Good. It's it was a good weekend, wasn't it?
That was a lot of fun.
It was. Where did you investigate? The late on the 10 p.m.
Well, I investigated the drive home, so I wasn't staying up there, and I was so tired. Keith had a better reason why he couldn't stay up.
We had to bring family to the airport at 5:30 in the morning, so we didn't have the opportunity to hang out there.
Yeah, I was with Vinny over at the jail.
Oh, okay.
So
how was it? How'd you like it?
It was pretty good. We had about 5 other people who were brand new to the field in the jail with us. So it was Vinny and Roger and I can't remember who else it was, but he was only there for a short period of time. And then me and the 5 people that were there at the Paracon who got the VIP tickets for the jail investigation. It was not bad. I mean, there were a lot of newbie questions being asked, like, do you want us to leave right in the beginning of the investigation? And I kept going, wait till you're ready to leave before you ask that. And I kept asking it. But it was really fun, actually. It was a good time. And poor Vinny, he was so tired.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. He had to have been
exhausted.
So did it last till 2:00 in the morning?
Yes, we went till 2:00. I got back to the hotel at about 2:20.
Wow.
So yeah, and we had a great time. There was in the other three ladies that were there. Someone touched the top of one of their heads twice while they were there, and their question was almost all the way through. Did you touch my hair? Can you tell me who touched my hair? And it was basically that was the whole gist of her questioning.
Right.
But we did the Estes experiment there for a while, and it was quite cool. It was a good time. Really loved the event. It was great. And next year I will be there.
Awesome. Now,
did
did you get anything personal at the jail? I mean, did anything happen to you? Did you experience anything?
Second floor men's tank.
Okay.
Where the all the scribbles are on the walls and stuff.
Yep.
There was a point for about 2 minutes that happened to me down at the Ajo Hospital down in Ajo, where I get up to the second floor and I want to go through, and it's didn't want to step into the door, didn't want to step across the threshold. About 2 minutes, I stood there going, well, you're an idiot. Come on, just walk on in. You've been doing this forever. And I finally did, and everything was fine. But it was just that apprehension of stepping across there. There was something there, you could feel it. I don't think they wanted us there. All the people, and then maybe that was just it. The feeling of go away, get out of here, that kind of thing. And I was by myself. So I just they were all down on the first floor doing the Estes experiment. So I just I'm wandering around the jail by myself, and everything was fine all the way up the ridge of size, everything, even up there in the trustees' dorm area, where there's supposedly something that's not very friendly right now. So I'm walking around there having a great time. Get down to that floor, that tank, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to cross into that. And I did after a couple of minutes and walked in. It was fine. But yeah, that was interesting little bit there.
Did you by chance on that same floor? Did you by chance see any shadow figures?
I did not, but I don't know if we would have, because of the noise, because all the things that were going on with a type of an investigation that this was.
Right.
There's way too much talking. There's way too much laughing. But that's how these convention investigations go. You've got a lot of people who aren't in paranormal investigations and are investigators who are doing it for the first time ever. So there's nervousness, there's all sorts of stuff. And no, I didn't see much of anything. I did hear a couple of bumps, knocks and things like that. So there was activity going on, but no, and I was also very tired. So I don't know. I may not have even noticed anything had it been there.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to come back and go do
definitely.
it again when it's just us doing it or a small group, because there's definitely something at the end of that corridor. Yeah. There's a beam that sticks up, and we'd be sitting down by the doors and we'd be looking straight down there. We swear something is peeking out from behind.
And I wouldn't
beam.
doubt it at all. You get the feeling that there's something there. Now, when I came out of the tank and I walked around. You walk around the outside of the tank where the food was put in and things like that. I kept having the feeling that somebody's reaching out to me. I'm walking along and it's like I'd sort of move closer to the wall, vice being closer to the tank itself.
Right.
The cell block. Tank is the word that they used to use for the cell block. So but I'm walking around. I kept feeling like somebody was trying to reach out and grab my arm or something. So I just stayed a little bit closer to the wall and just kept walking around talking to people. Had my recorder going the whole time. So I've got it downloaded to the computer. I just haven't started going through it yet. It's graduation week at work. So we got a lot of kids doing a lot of different things.
Right. I'd be interested to see what you get, because we've reviewed some evidence there and gotten some cool stuff that we got on recording. So
I bet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we got to definitely have to plan to go back and do it with you, because it's a great place. I think that's one of our favorite places to investigate.
It's probably because it was our first place too,
Yeah, so, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll always be a special place.
Right.
Well, I was out with running around town with Tony Rathman's kid Dylan, who's an investigator on his own, and we walked into the old courthouse, which is now the art gallery area up there, the Center for the Arts, and walked in, and we wandered around all over the place. And Will, the gallery manager, came down and talked to us. And once he realized that we were there for the convention and that we were paranormal investigators, he asked us if we'd like to come in and investigate the place. So we got his card, and we'll get that set up here as soon as we can. Also, the folks with the Naughty Fox downstairs, that little shop that does the reclaimed wood and does art projects with the reclaimed wood.
Yeah.
Those folks, we were talking to them, and they said that we could get access through them down to the cells, down in the old cells, down in the bottom of the courthouse. Yeah, so cool. That'd be kind of cool. I'd like to be able to get down there and do that too.
Yeah, but, Will's a great guy. He experiences a lot of stuff in that place, so it's always fun to talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm interested in getting that going.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be cool. But yeah, so sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said I hope I'm here when you do that again.
Well, we'll let you know and invite you back. So definitely. So this show is really kind of getting to know you a little bit, and I've had the pleasure of talking to you multiple times now, because you were on my dad's show and saw you in 2 Paracons, and I love talking to you because I'm just blown away by the experiences you've had in your life, and not just paranormal, just everything you've done in your life. Just really, really is awesome.
It's been interesting.
Yeah, it definitely has. So for our audience purposes, if you want to give us a little background on you, kind of how you got into the paranormal and what some of your life experience has been and maybe where you plan to go from here.
All right. I started off in third grade or so, going across the street to my grandmother's house, having lunch. We'd make lunch together. She lived right across the street from the school. We always talked about ghosts. We'd talk about Indian petroglyphs. We'd talk about some of her friends. She had Hopi and Navajo friends and Ute friends and things like that. And we'd talk about them and their cultures and things like that. So it was always interesting. My biggest thing was always the ghosts and spirits and whatever. That just was tantalizing to me, even at that young age. And I never really did anything with it. Grandma and I used to go spelunking in some caves and things. We'd take a piece of rope and tie it off on a rock in the front and go back, and we'd follow it back until we ran out of rope or until we ran out of cave, and sit down and have lunch and talk with a little lantern going and talk about, well, wonder if anybody lived here, and try to come up with a history of the place based on smoke on the ceiling or drawings on the walls if there were any, or whatever we could find, and try to figure out what was going on in this place. And then we'd talk about basically all of that. We'd go on adventures, and it wasn't until I was in the Navy and about age 22 or so, I was stationed in Gaeta, Italy, on board the flagship over there, USS Belknap at the time. And I was having a smoke with my neighbor downstairs in front of the house. And I quit smoking 7 years ago. Yay. But
good for you.
Yeah, thanks. But I said, hey, do you think that building over there is haunted? He says, oh, do you like ghosts? I said, yes, I do. And next thing I know, he's inviting me to an investigation with his team, with the old cassette recorders, plus press play and record at the same time, and film cameras and things like that. So we're going out trying to do what we can. The baby powder on the floor, the whole 9 yards, the old school way of doing things. So we went up to this place north of Gaeta and got in, did our investigation. And I don't remember very much at all about the investigation, except that I was really excited to be there, and it was a lot of fun. And I don't know if we even caught any evidence of any type. Right. It was just absolutely wonderful. And I was hooked. That was all there was to it. And I've done investigations in England, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland. Never been to Wales yet. That's a place I want to go. But France and Germany and all over the place, all over Europe. Done some in Egypt and Greece, Turkey, places like that. Basically all over the world, South America, Central America, and a bunch of them here in the States. Right. I've had a great time doing it. Been all over the place. My work took me many of these places. Right. So it was, I'm here. Let's do something, and try to figure out where I can go and get permissions real fast to get in and investigate. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of fun. But I've been doing this since, I think 86, 87. Okay. So it's been many, many moons. Your grandmother sounds like an amazing person. I mean, she was absolutely the coolest person I ever knew. It seems like it. She stood 5'2" and just a powder keg of let's go. That's awesome. That's awesome that you had that experience. Great. So in all your experiences over in Europe, since you're talking old history there, does it seem like there's more activity over there than there is here in the States, or different activity? I mean, you can go here and go around, and the stuff that you pick up here isn't nearly as old. The history is there for many, many, many centuries, but I don't seem to ever find anything more than maybe 1700s, 1600s, if you're lucky. And a lot of it's 1800s. That kind of, you'll see in my old house in California, we had a minor 49er kind of guy that was, I don't know where he came from, but he would stand in the upstairs area right next to the bathroom door upstairs. And we had another guy that had my build and my height who stood right out just adjacent to that guy, right outside my bedroom door. So it was like those two were right there next to each other. I don't know if they even knew that they existed, either existed. They were just there all the time. And people came in, they'd see the one that looked like me or had my build all the time, come out of the guest room, and they would go in, oh, hi, Joe, what are you doing at 2:00 in the morning? And then they realized it wasn't me and, go back into their room or hurry downstairs to get a drink or something and come back up.
Right.
But very few people ever saw the minor 49er. That was 2 or 3 people that saw them. I know my son did several times, and it scared him because he's always been able to see spirits as far as I know, but he doesn't talk about it, and that's it. It's like, okay, kid, you don't have to. Right. But it's always been interesting. And then we had a little boy named Daniel in the house who was about 7 or so, and he was extremely active. I don't know where he came from either. He just appeared one day, started hanging out in my son's room, and he would whisper to my son's friends when they were playing video games, "Can I play too?" And of course the kids would freak until they got used to it. And then they just set a controller out for him and said, "There you go, Daniel, here's your controller." And, that was it. But people would get poked at nighttime. "Hey, come on, let's go play. And they would wake them up and say, "Let's go." So it was very, very active. And I enjoyed every minute of being in that house because of that. There were spirits all over the place. My grandmother would be there every once in a while. She'd sit over there by the door to the garage and watch my son playing his video games on his computer or doing homework, if he ever did sometimes. But, I mean, it was there. And, Grandma would be there. You could feel her there. Right. And then my friend Tim, who's clairaudient, would come in and say, "There's somebody over there by the door, says, name is like Pippi, Poppy, something." And I'd say, "Pappy?" And that's what we used to call her, was Pappy. Right. And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's probably it." And then, that was pretty cool, but it was always close when he'd come up with a name.
Right.
That was pretty awesome.
I want to go back to something you said that kind of I hadn't really thought of it, where you mentioned that several ghosts or entities living in the same space, but in different realms.
Different realms, different times.
Yeah.
I've run across that a few times where you've got an entity in a room and you can like EVP with that entity. Okay, you said your name was John, for instance. We'll just say that. Right. John, are you here? Can you give us, can you knock on the wall? Can you do anything? And then you go out with a general question. And you go, "Is there anybody in the room with us?" And you'll get another, "Oh, hi, this is Bill," or something along those lines. Something gives you a different thing. "Bill, can you see John?" "Who?" Along those lines. It's not exactly like that, of course, as you know. But as an example, it's, you get the, "I don't know who this is. I don't know what you're talking about." And spirits in different time frames, different dimensions, different areas. I don't know really how to explain it, but it happens quite often where you'll see that split. And then you see it a lot over in Europe and places where it's really old. You'll have this older group, a couple of monks and things like that, maybe running around a place, and then a more recent spirit, and they don't even know that each other exists.
What's interesting is, do you think maybe in that dimension where they exist, that time doesn't exist there?
Well, I personally think time is all going at the same time. Past, present, future is all right now. So, and because our brains think in a linear fashion, we understand time in a linear fashion. That's how we see it. But I really, in my mind, I think it's happening the same time all the time. That's why time travel is possible. We just haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Right.
Somebody in the future has, because it's happening right now. If it's going to happen, I guess. Maybe.
Right. I love hearing those stories. You hear those one-offs where somebody traveled back from the year 2053 or something like that. You know, there's all kinds of documented stories about that.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's I talk to different people and I get different ideas and different thoughts on this subject or that subject. And you go home, you start thinking about it. You know, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, maybe. I believe in reincarnation. And that was something that my grandmother taught me and gave me the idea. And some people think it's really silly, but I like this idea. Imagine that God is sitting up there doing his thing, or the creator or whatever the supreme being is sitting there on a chair surrounded by all these people. And all of these people have only lived one life. Imagine sitting there with the most stupid person you know in your whole existence sitting next to you for all eternity.
Right.
So grandmother said, why don't they live a life? You could live to be 86, a man living to be 86 and lived all over the place and did all sorts of stuff. And you learned in that life. And the next life, you only live for 2 months. You learned something in that life. And you lived all these lives. And you learn something in every single life to make you a better, more rounded being. And at the end of all your learning, then you go and be around the creator or whatever's out there. And you can be helpful to whatever's going on at that point, instead of just sitting there being a dud on a stool. I don't know. I don't like that idea. It just makes me feel warmer and more comfortable. And that's where the older spirits come from. Yeah, I'm an old soul. I've been around a while, and then you've got your younger souls who are coming out and doing things and, can't really do anything on their own. And your older souls are just going, oh my God, where'd this kid come from? And I like the idea. I think it's comforting.
It's interesting.
Son, we got to get you a new life.
Right.
Or teach you something. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you believe in reincarnation?
I mean, the more that we've talked about it
right.
and looked at it, it makes sense to me.
I mean, like my dad always says, how do you get these kids that are 2 and 3 that know how to fly planes, or they can play the drums like they've been playing for 30 years, or just the prodigies, the explained prodigies,
Right.
Yeah, could they just be born smart? I guess, but there's certain things like dexterity and stuff like that that's developed as you age. Some of these kids just have it right out the womb, and it's like, how does that happen? It's interesting.
And that's kind of my whole thing with that process. These people have learned something, and a lot of us don't retain everything, of course, from the previous lives, and it's just there. So deja vu, or I've walked down streets in let's say Edinburgh, Scotland. I've walked down a few streets in Edinburgh that I know I've been there before, and I've never gone down that street. But I look down, I go, yeah, there's a church steeple around the corner, and you turn the corner and there's a church steeple. Okay, cool. And it's just, I just really think that's how it goes. I did the same thing in Boston. I'm walking around Boston down in Southie, St. Patrick's Day a number of years back, which was a fun time, I'll tell you. But you walk down there and there's things that I have never seen before because I had never been to Southie. And I knew exactly where I was. I knew where that pub was that I wanted and just walked straight to it. So had I been there before in a past life? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe something in the back of my head told me, yeah, turns left here or something. Yeah. I don't know. But it was fun.
Yeah, deja vu is kind of freaky. It's happened to me quite a bit.
Well, I think I'm living my dumb self life this time around. So I'm looking forward to the next one. Hopefully it'll be, So, I mean, life's been good to me, but, when you look back and think of all the stupid things and choices you've made, it's like, okay, well, hopefully I'll get a chance to do that again sometime and make better choices.
Right.
But,
yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows? You're interested in the paranormal, so that says that you're a slightly older soul than a lot of the other ones. So that to me, the older souls in this scenario, the older souls are the ones who have experienced this stuff. They're not afraid of the ghosts so much. Right. They know there's something there, where the newer souls go, oh my goodness, what is this? You know, they're the ones that are afraid and run.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to put logic to things that, you know, I feel.
No, I like your way of thinking. I do.
It's interesting.
A question I like to ask people, especially people that are what I would consider sensitive, is for those that aren't, for those that don't, you know, everybody. So just so you know, I don't see things. I don't think, Joey, you really don't see things either, right? So when people say, you know, we hear it all the time on investigation. Okay, there's a guy standing right there, or there's something standing right there. So I always like to ask, how do you see these things? Do you see him as a physical being? You know what I mean, like a person standing in front of you, or do you see colors? Do you see shadows? What do you see?
I see shadows a lot. Normally I see shadows. I mean, I see them around the house here quite a bit. I see them definitely at work. There's my old office up there was like 250 steps from the main building. And I was up there by myself many times, sitting in the front of the classroom, and I'd have the door across the room open. And I would see people walk in and out of that doorway all the time, look up and there's nobody there. I mean, you see the shadows come through. I see that a lot. I very seldom see what you would consider to be a full-bodied apparition. I think I've seen 2, maybe 3 of those in my lifetime, and usually just partials, like an arm reaching out or a set of legs walking across, and once maybe most of the body, but it was brief, quick, and you just kind of second guess yourself. But when something is there, I feel a tingle, an electrical, not shock, but vibration, maybe just a tingle from head to toe on the side where that spirit is standing. So if it's just right off my right-hand side, I feel a tingle off that right-hand side. And very seldom, on occasion, I'll get a flash of what the person looked like. Not very often, but once in a while. At the Corona Public Library, we were doing a public investigation there. Before our very first one, we went in to do an investigation on our own to see what's there, what we could find. And I walked back into the nonfiction section, and back against the wall, in a corner, I walked past and got a zap. There was somebody right there to my right-hand side, and he had a black coat, a white shirt, a thin black tie, a thin pencil-thin mustache, black hair slicked back. And it's kind of like, okay. So I got that very brief glimpse of him. And so I went back and told our medium on the team. I said, hey, that's what I've got. And she said, okay, we'll do some looking. So we all went in and looked, and it turned out that it was a gentleman who was working as the manager of a bar downtown, the only real bar in town and the fanciest restaurant in town, back in the 1911, 1912 time frame. And he was there, and he kept telling everybody that was his place, but it was really run by organized crime. And organized crime caught him in the park where the library is now and put a shotgun blast through him. Oh, so that's where he passed, and that's him right there. So I can't remember what his name is now, but we had his name. We had all that kind of information as to what happened and knew he died right there. But that description I had matched the description of him. So we're, 80%, maybe 80% sure that was who that is.
Right.
But it was that quick flash, and I got the buzz. And you could feel there was a buzz. Walk through the main part of the library, around the corner there, and you walk through, and there's some chairs, comfy chairs for people to sit in, read newspapers and whatever. And I always got a buzz there. And I found out that there was a lady that was murdered on the street probably 8 years before. And she was a homeless lady, and she liked that park bench right outside the library. And she was murdered on that park bench. But her thing was to come in every single day, get a cup of coffee up the street, come into the library and read the newspapers and the magazines and things, all the new ones that had come in. She would read those and then go back out again. So she was doing her thing, coming in, sitting in those chairs and reading the newspapers after she had passed. So at least that's what we suspected. It was her pattern, and that's what she did. So I thought it was interesting, and there were a few more characters in that library that we'd run across. A little boy named Stevie, or at least that's what we called him, and he answered to it. He would giggle at it all the time, right? Without equipment or anything, you could hear him giggling, and there weren't any kids in the library with us. So, it'd be a little boy giggle.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's always fun.
But we have seen shadows,
Yeah,
I mean, but I think we're at the point where we see them, but we're still questioning ourselves, Right. I mean, is it something, the light playing with our eyes or whatnot? So maybe that's what we're looking for, is that electricity, Well,
I get that occasionally. I get when I feel like you get that feeling that something's watching you, and your body kind of like tenses up. And I get that at the jail, especially at Doniana. Some of the places we've gone into there, you just feel like somebody's either standing behind you or looking at you or watching you, and you just get that like tense feeling in your body. So maybe that's it. Maybe we're getting it. We don't realize we're getting it, right? Yeah.
I mean, I've experienced that at the Gila County Jail too. And I think that was on the second floor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We went into second floor. Yep.
Yeah. That one cell where
the guitar is.
Where the guitar is.
Yeah, where the guitar is. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? What was his name? Carl?
Carl. Yeah, it was Carl.
Yeah,
yep.
Carl. Yeah. So I was in there talking to Carl a little bit, and then, like I said, I had no problem in the tank itself, in that area out front. No problem at all. No problem in the cells. But it was really iffy on the walkabout going around the outside of the tank. It was strange. Just like somebody grabbing you. I really like that place.
Yeah, it's a fun place. I want to do a sleepover there. I really do. That'd be a lot of fun to do. Yeah.
Everybody grab themselves.
Yep. Just can't do it in June or July. It's too hot.
No, you'd never get any sleep. You'd just be sweating.
Yeah. So, I got to get into demonology a little bit, because it's something that always fascinates me. And I think we've had a lot of conversations about it in the past. And I understand that you're, what do you call it? A student of demonology, right?
Yes, definitely.
That's what you consider yourself. So, there's a lot of misconceptions about what demons really are, I think. And I think the term, especially in the paranormal industry, is just thrown around a little too much.
Very too much.
And well, let's talk about how you got interested in studying demonology, because that takes a whole nother set of guts, I think.
I wanted something more. Really, that's it. And I started looking. I was just sitting at work one day, and I had been thinking, I had a great team over in California. It was a great team. Had some really good people. Had an empath, a medium. We had our researcher, historian, some investigators, a clairaudient. It was a really great team that joined me on these investigations. And I thought, I keep hearing these stories from people about, that there's a lot darker side to all of this. And so I started investigating, and I ran across Archbishop Ron Fale over in the California area. He was only 10 miles from where I lived. Mm-hmm. So I contacted him through his webpage and said, hey, I'm interested in maybe getting involved in this. What do I need to do? And he said, I'm having a meeting on Saturday at this place, and come on over and join us. Well, I get there, and I take the medium from my team with me, because she was kind of interested, but also wanted to go to see what she thought about this guy.
Right.
So we go over there. She's protecting me like she's a wonderful woman that she is. So we get over there, and we meet up with him, and we start talking about what he does, what goes on with these investigations, how these investigations are laid out. And with him, it's basically audio, video setup, so you can see everything around the person that is being a victim. We'll just call the person a victim. And so you've got the audio, the video, everything about this person. And then you go through and you ask these 60 questions that the church has come up with that you can ask. You know, a lot of it's physical stuff. Then there's stuff around you. Like, do you have keys that disappear, or things that just disappear around you quite often, then reappear someplace else where you can't find it for a couple of days? And there is that kind of a series of questions.
Right.
And then things about you, like, do you speak any languages that you shouldn't be able to speak? Or something like, do you feel that you can affect the lives of other people, you know, with just your thoughts and things like that? I mean, just a bunch of different questions. So I said, okay, that sounds kind of interesting. Let me give it a try. And I grabbed a couple of my teammates who were interested in doing this, and we went out on a couple of investigations that were considered to be demonic. And I've found, in my belief, I think I've only done 3 real demonic cases, 2 infestations and 1 possession. The other ones were all not nice spirits.
Right.
But then again, it's how you were raised, what you were raised with. If you only know that there's angels and demons and ghosts don't exist, well, then you've got angels and demons.
Right.
You know, that's how you were raised. If you know that there's ghosts and angels and demons, well, now you've got a little bit more to worry about.
Right.
What is it in between? You know, what's on either end? So one of the cases that we had was up in Hemet area in California. We had one that was in also in Hemet area, but one was up by Lake Hemet and the other one was down in town. And then the other one was in East LA. So the one at Lake Hemet, it was an older couple, and they were doing EVPs all the time. And they were like, they'd record, and they were trying to get hold of their parents, their grandparents, anybody like that. And they would sit there and record, ask questions, and listen back. And after a period of time, months and months and months, they started hearing this voice in their head saying, yep, you don't even need that thing anymore. I can hear you. I can talk to you. I'm your guardian angel. I'm here to help. What do you need?
Wow.
And that's about the time they decided they needed some help. So they called in and said, hey, we need some help. Can you come out here and help us? So went out, we did the investigation. We asked the 60 questions, walked around the house, filmed everything, came up with the evidence, and they were like talking to an entity that we couldn't see, but they were talking to it, answering the questions that the entity was asking them without any equipment or anything. So I'm thinking, okay, either number one, they're crazy, or number two, there is something there asking them questions and talking with them. Not many other options. Now, while we were there, Tim, who was with me, the clairaudient, he asked if he could go use the restroom just before we left. While he was in there, he felt something touch his lower back, and he didn't think anything of it. He comes out of the restroom. We start picking up our equipment already packed up and ready to go, and we start walking out the door, and before he gets out the door, Tim is doubling over in pain. Something is attacking him, so we need to get him out of that area. And we put him in the truck, and we get him down the road, down from Lake Hemet, about halfway down. He says, stop, stop, stop. We stop. He gets out. He's trying to get rid of all this stuff, whatever's in his stomach, making him upset. And he finally said, oh, let's just go. And he jumped back in the truck, and we left. And we got another 15 miles down the road. And he says, stop now. So I pulled over the side of the road, and when he got started, it was like a pinkish foam came out of him, out of his stomach, and he was vomiting for like 5 minutes, just solid streams of this stuff. And I don't know where he got so much from, but it was the strangest, weirdest thing. And after he was going there for quite a while, he was feeling better. So I got him back in the truck, and we headed back to the house. And when we pulled into my driveway, it all went away. The pain, everything went away. Of course, my house was blessed from one end to the other. I mean, every place blessed. Even the driveway around it, did the blessed pennies in the corners and really sealed it off. And once we got there, he was like, oh, okay. And he went in, raided the refrigerator and started eating everything he could. He starved. But that was something up there that attacked him. So we took that evidence and we took all that we had, wrote it up, sent it off to the church, and that group was taken care of. As far as I know, I never heard anything more from the case. So there was another one in Hemet itself where a lady and her son were being sexually molested by something that they couldn't see. It just was happening. The wife or the lady was getting molested when she was anywhere, driving, at the store, anything. And it was, a bad thing going on. The son was being molested when he was in his room. Never at school, I don't believe it was, but always when he was at home. And so they called us in. We did the investigation, did the interviews, and passed it on to the church again as an infestation. And apparently it was taken care of because I never heard from them again.
Right.
Then we had the possession case in East LA. A young girl, 19 years old at the time, very beautiful, petite, small girl. That's important in the story. We go in, we talk to the family, we talk to her. This is all on film. I've got the videos here. Talk to the family, and she's sitting in a chair in front of me about 6-8 feet away, just sitting down in the chair, and I start asking her the 60 questions. Everything goes good until about halfway through. I get to the question, do you speak any languages you shouldn't be able to speak? And she started hyperventilating a little bit, and the tendons in her neck stood up like more than what they should, like somebody was inside pushing out, that kind of a thing. Wow. It was pretty creepy. And she's like breathing really in and out very fast, very hard. And then she stood up. Her arms went out to her side. She starts, and her voice is 3 octaves lower. And I don't know what she was saying, but she was saying something, and it sounded like language. And she started walking toward me. And 2 of her brothers and her sister, who are much heavier than she is, wrap their arms around her to keep her from moving forward. And she's dragging them along. Wow. This little girl is dragging them along behind her. And she gets up to where her face is like right in front of mine. I'm just sort of sitting here like this, just watching her. And she gets right in front of mine, and she's screaming at me, spittle coming out all over the place. And I'm just watching her. And after a couple of minutes, she stops. And she looks at me, and her eyes get real wide, and she says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she goes and sits down in the chair again. And that was the last thing we had happen, wow. Through the whole interview and everything. But that tells me something was going on with that girl.
Yeah.
Just the fact that her voice changed, some of the things happened, and she was dragging 3 of her siblings along behind her, kind of added a little bit to it, I think. But we finished that interview, and then a week later, we went back in for the investigation for the house itself. Right. And we're there. We get all set up. I had Roger with me, who's a guy on my team. We had Tim, the clairaudient, was with us because he's always handy to have. And we get in there, and I very seldom ever hear anything. Tim, constantly. So, he'll tell you what's going on, what he hears, what's going on around you. And we get in there, we start walking around, getting baseline readings, and the medium on my team calls me and says, where the heck are you? Well, we're investigating this. Put blankets, mirrors, towels, or put blankets and towels, whatever you can find over every mirror in the house. Now, do it. Okay. So we go around. I said, Tim, Roger, blankets over the mirrors. Let's go. Bathroom mirrors, bedroom mirrors, every place there was something reflective, we put it over there, mirror type. And then she goes, okay, they are pissed. Okay, who's pissed? What's going on here? Now we've got this done. Apparently, the girl, or whatever was controlling the girl, had something sent to us to watch what we were doing while we were at the house. and they were watching us through the mirrors, the backside of the mirrors. So they're watching us do this. And when we covered everything up, they were ticked off. They couldn't see us. They couldn't see what we were doing. So Heather said, okay, you're going to have to go bless all these mirrors and wash them down with holy water. You got holy water? Of course. Where do you go without holy water? I got some in my truck right now, right? So we had holy water, and go around, you bless all the mirrors, do a nice blessing on them, wipe them all down with holy water, and then you could take down the mirror or take down the blanket or towel or whatever. And she says they are even more irritated now that you put holy water on their view screens.
Right.
So, but we went through the rest of the investigation. We found a few more ghosts around the house. There was a lady and her son, and they didn't want to cross over because they were afraid they were going to be separated. So we said, well, we'll cross you over at the same time. You'll be fine. You know, you need help. You want to help. And then Grandma had been telling us about a lot of her gold had gone missing, and she didn't know where it went, gold rings and jewelry and stuff. And the medium had told us that there's a lady in there taking the gold. So we figured it was probably this mom and son who was taking the gold. So we said, before we cross you over, you're going to have to return all that. And the next day, Grandma found a pile of her rings and stuff under the head of her bed. So apparently they returned whatever it was before we crossed them over. Huh. So I thought it was quite cool. There were a few other things that went on in the house, but nothing as spectacular as the washing the mirrors and getting all that done. And the girl, as far as I know, it's been 8 or 9 years now since this happened. As far as I know, she has never been helped. There's never been an exorcism or anything done on her because she still refuses to do the mental and physical evaluations needed before an exorcism can be done.
Right.
And you don't want to go in there and hurt her. You know, if there was a mental thing going on or something physical causing this, you don't want to go in and start, you know, doing an exorcism, screaming at her, you know, doing whatever you need to do to make this thing work. So you don't really want to do that. You might hurt her, and then you're in for a lawsuit. You're in for all sorts of trouble.
Right.
So you want this evaluation where the doctor and the site go in and say, yep, they're fine. I don't know why they're doing this. And at that point, then you could do the exorcism.
Right.
Yeah. Or the priest can anyway.
So is there I don't even know how to ask the question. Is there a fine line between mental illness and honestly, because you know, people with multiple personalities, could be construed as a demonic possession, right? If somebody starts Jekyll and Hyde syndrome, you know,
and that's why you have to be so careful and get a professional to look and say, okay, let's do these interviews, a series of them, not just one real quick. What's your name? You know, can you, do you know any other weird languages, stuff like that? It's a series of interviews and a series of chats, and then they'll make up their mind as to whether or not this person is sane, or if they've got some other syndrome going on that you really don't want to get involved in. Let the professionals handle that. And it is a very fine line when you start getting into it. You know, what's going on with this person. So that's why there's the Catholic Church and people who do the Protestant side of it, a deliverance. You know, they're very much the same thing. A deliverance and an exorcism are the same thing. One's Protestant, one's Catholic.
Right.
But you have to be extremely careful because you don't want to be hurting people.
Right.
You know, who knows? You may say something that just drives them deeper.
Triggers it. Yeah.
Yeah, it triggers something. You don't want PTSD setting in if it's not already there.
I think that's what scares me, because you hear so many groups that go, oh yeah, we go into people's houses and we, get rid of the bad spirits. And I'm thinking, God, I wouldn't want to, I'd love to go do an investigation in a home, but I wouldn't want to tell somebody, oh, you got a demon or you got this, I wouldn't want to be responsible for that. I
don't ever tell them that they've got a demon.
Yeah.
Even with that possession case. Yep. Well, we'll bring it up to the church. We'll send them in the evidence. We'll get all this stuff. It's not my job to decide whether it's a demon or not.
Right.
But of course, I've already got it in my head what I think it is, but I'm not going to tell the family that, It's you really don't want to. And I'll go into a house. I've done several homes, and you walk into a house and you go, okay, and you can usually tell immediately when you walk in if there's something in the house. Right. You know, most people can. They just, some of us with paranormal investigators, we kind of know more what it is than the lay person will. They'll go, "Ooh, that's a weird feeling. Somebody's watching me." Well, we'll go, "Yeah, that's probably a ghost or something along those lines." Right. And we'll start looking for it, asking questions. Sometimes it's a family member, and it'll be very, very protective. You know, they're protecting. We had this kid in a wheelchair one time, and the medium was one of those trips that she said she had to go on. So she went with us, and she saw lights around this kid, not like the orbs like you see. Everybody goes, "Ooh, look, an orb." These are solid lights with tails going around this kid, and they're circling around him all the time. And she goes, "That's family. That's family surrounding that kid, protecting him the whole time." Huh. And it's like, oh, that is awesome. And the mom's brother, who had overdosed a few years before, was walking around upstairs, and he didn't want to leave either. And she said, "No, leave him here. Leave him here." So we had nothing at all to get rid of in the house because it was all there. They just wanted to know why they were being watched and what these strange feelings were. Brothers upstairs, protective. Families around the son, protective. Hey, let's go. You know, I have no problem at all leaving them there. Right. If there's something not quite so good, you know, what do you do to get rid of it? They don't want to go. They're also using the energy of any other spirits in the house to hold them there. That's why you hear the stories of, "Do you want to cross over?" Yeah, I want to cross over. Well, let's go. And they don't. Something's holding them there. Something stronger and bigger and meaner is holding them there. You got to get rid of that big mean guy first before you can get anybody else out of there. At least that's what I've run across many times. Interesting. I think I mentioned in a previous chat, there was a place in Corona that we did. It was a business, an environmental business. And we'd gone in, and every room in the place needed help. You know, it was just packed. But they would go to places where there were car accidents, murder, suicides, murders, etc., and they would clean up the blood, and they would clean up everything, and they put it in barrels, store it until they had enough to go and do an incinerator run and get rid of the stuff. So it was all there in their garage. So imagine what you brought into the building with you every time you went out, right? So I expected something like this all over the place. There were a couple of military guys, Air Force and Navy, standing in the garage on the walk across the top. They didn't want to go. They were happy right there where they were. More power to you guys. Thanks. And they stayed there. And we cleared everything else out, and we left. And about 3 weeks later, we got a call saying that one room, you know, where everybody hates to be, yeah, that's getting bad again. Everything else was perfect. No problems anywhere else. So we go back into that one room, and it's just me and the medium this time. We go walking in, and she says, "Yep." And I said, "Yep, there's stuff here." And we walk over to the wall, and there was a portal in the wall, just standing there. She said she could see it, just emitting light like crazy, and I could feel the energy coming from it. So between the two of us, with holy water and prayers and stuff, we went in and sealed it. I think she did most of the work, but I was trying. So we're in there, we're closing this thing down. She says she can't see anything anymore, and I can't feel anything anymore. And she says, "Okay, there we go." And then there's 3 spirits in the room. One of them was a little girl, and she says the little girl is just there because she wants help to cross over. Nothing at all to do with the other 2. Okay. She says that the lady standing here has stab marks all over. She's been stabbed. She's been murdered. And she's wanting to cross over. But the guy that was standing right behind me wouldn't let her, and wouldn't let the little girl cross over either. So we're talking. The medium and I are talking, trying to figure out what we're going to do to solve this, because he doesn't want them to leave. So I said, "Okay, dude, come on." I turn around, I look at him. "Come on, let's go out in the hallway. We need to talk." So I go out to the hallway and I said, let's talk man to man. Let's do it. And while I'm talking to him, I think he's with me. I mean, I could feel the little tingle and everything in front of me, like we're talking. While we're out here talking, she's in there crossing them over, getting them both to go to the other side. Right. When I walk back into the room, apparently she says this guy is really, really ticked off now because now, we've taken everything away from him. And I said, you've got to go too. You've got to go. And we're like, how in the world? He doesn't want to cross over. He's afraid of where he's going. He's a murderer. He's afraid of where he's going. He must have been of a Christian faith, or something along those lines, because he believes in hell and that stuff. And I'm going, okay, what do we do? And this little voice in the back of my head said, well, why don't you have him accept Jesus Christ as a savior? Well, he's already dead. Can we do that? I mean, really, he's already done his badness, and he should be already gone to wherever he's going. And I look at the medium, and I just heard this, and she goes, I guess we could try it. So we went in and we tried it. We went through, asking the questions, do you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior and all this? And she's answering for me because she can hear him talking. And we're going through all of this, and they said, okay, you want to cross over now? And he goes, according to her, he said, yeah. So we went through the thing and crossed him over. I don't know where he went. Have no idea which direction he went, but he went somewhere, and they've never had a problem in that building again.
Wow.
As far as I know.
That's amazing.
It was interesting. In some of these places you have to return to 2 or 3 times.
Right.
There was a place, this place, the building was sold. After we did all the cleaning, they sold the building, and and they moved into another place, and they wanted us to come in and check the place out. So we walked into this new building, which was in a strip mall, and it had a warehouse in the back, just like the old place. It wasn't as big, and then offices in the front. And we walk in, and there's all sorts of stuff going on in there. You could just feel it. And in this one office, there was a guy named Guillermo. And I figured that out using my dowsing rods. Okay, we're going to figure out your name. Cross the rods when I get to the first letter of your name. And I get up to G, and it crosses. And I said, okay. And then you go through, and I got to E, and I said, okay, let's see. I don't want to go through this whole thing. And I'm guessing names, George, and then to get to Guillermo. And he's like, oh, yes, okay, that's it. So we know his name is Guillermo. And we were in there asking him questions. And we've got friends of ours who don't believe in any of this stuff. They're their husbands of our researcher and things. It's like, he goes, nah, I'm just here because I'm here. Okay, great. We have a couple of mediums with us from other teams and other people from other teams, just because, we like working together with other people. And we get in there, and we're talking to Guillermo, and he's telling us that he used to be a foreman on a ranch that was right in that spot, in that area. And he had a wife and children and everything. But he also loved this lady that worked over in the main house. And nothing ever happened between them, ever. There was no infidelity, nothing at all. He just loved her as he loved his wife and the kids. When his wife died, then he started talking to her and seeing her and things like that. And they're a couple now. Everything was fine. And then when he died, and then she died later, they died in separate places, and something's keeping them apart. We don't know what it is. We couldn't figure it out. But he's in this room, and she's over by the ladies' room in the building, over on the, 25, 30 feet away.
Right.
And they both want to cross over, but they want to cross over together. How do you do that? So I said, okay, all you non-believers and you medium, let's get together, hold hands. We're going to walk this guy through us to her. And they're like, oh yeah, right. Yeah, whatever. So I'm standing here with Guillermo in this room, and I've got my medium at the very end, because we work together and we know each other well. And I've got Jeff, who's our researcher's husband, right next to me. And he's like the biggest disbeliever we've got. So I've got him right next to me. And I said, okay, Guillermo, here's what we're going to do. You're going to walk through me, use me as a conduit, and you're going to walk all the way down this line, all the way down, and we're going to put you with your girlfriend, and then we're going to cross you over. And Jeff goes, "Oh, this is crap, blah, blah, blah." And I sort of reached out my arm like this, and I could feel Guillermo going through me. I could feel the tingle all the way across. It got to my hand, and you should have heard the expletives that Jeff was saying. He was like, "Oh, my God." I mean, it was pretty loud and pretty obnoxious. And it went right through him, and it went all the way down the line, and people go, oh, like this, all the way down. It gets to our medium, gets there, and she crosses them both over at the same time before anything could snap him back or whatever. Crossed them over, got them gone. And then it was like, "Oh my God, what was that?" The craziest thing I've ever been through. Believer now.
Yeah.
At least for the most part, because he actually felt what I described was going to go through him. Some spirit, some energy is going to go through him. And then everybody else felt it as well. And that was quite an interesting evening. But that's really our biggest thing from that place. But it was a lot of fun just watching the expression on Jeff's face as the spirit walked through him. That was pretty awesome.
That's funny.
So, so you say you're a student of being a
demonology.
Edit this better because I empty stomach, and this is a little higher alcohol content. Anyway, yeah. So you're a student of being a demonologist,
Right?
So I know from another interview we did with Carl.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yeah.
You know, he and his twin brother are both demonologists, but
They
Carl
are.
says he's a non-religious demonologist, whereas brother
Right.
Keith is a
Is
religious
Right.
demonologist. So to be a religious demonologist, I mean, is there an ordination to get that type of?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm an ordained minister, but nothing fancy, right? I'm not anything big, fancy, whatever. I could do weddings. I could do blessings. I could do things like that. But Keith is a lot more on the religious side than I ever was. You know, my family was never terribly religious ever. So what I've got is things that I've read, things that I've learned, things that I believe. And that's my religious side. So I'm more a non-religious type student of demonology.
But you do work with the religious side too.
I work with a Catholic archbishop. I work with a priest. I work with another investigator who's also Catholic. And there's a few more in there that I don't think I've ever met. But we've got these people that we work with, and I go to them for advice whenever I need it. It's like, "Archbishop, hey, I got this going on." And he'll say, "Well, try this, you know." Or he'll come up with something like an anointed shawl or anointed something that you can, you know, put around the neck of whoever it is having the trouble, and go ahead and he says, and do these prayers, do St. Michael, anything. And then I'll follow his advice and that would be fine. He's out of state, so it's kind of hard for him to come down and every time we need help. So we do a lot of things over video calls and whatever. He can even go around and I'll hold up my phone with a video call going on, and he'll walk around and do his blessing, do his prayers, whatever he needs to do. And that seems to work very well for us. So, you know, he's still there. His voice is still there. His energy, what he's doing is still there, and his faith is still there. So it works just fine. So, but I'm on the more of the non-uber religious side. You know, I'm there. I'm religious, but I'm not really, I don't go to church, you know?
Right.
So, but I read and I believe and I do things like that. But then I believe a lot more than what the church believes. You know, the reincarnation thing and things. You won't find too many Catholics talk about reincarnation. You know.
Yeah.
So
anytime you step outside the teachings of the Bible, you're
right. You get smacked upside the head by somebody. That's true.
Right.
You know?
So do they have like conventions and stuff that are just for demonologists? You know, they get together and they compare notes and.
No, I have never heard of one. I know as a group, we're looking for a place. The guy out in Kansas, the other investigator out in Kansas, He's always looking for a small church for sale or something we can all get together and buy and have a spot where we could do our retreats.
Retreat.
We'll go in there, we'll have meetings and we'll talk about it and bring other people in and discuss it. But as of right now, no, as far as I know, there's no conventions or anything for it. I know there's meetings and things where people get together, but not like a convention format at all. It's meet at somebody's house and discuss things. But we've never done that. I mean, Archbishop Cloud and I have been, he's the one that I'm working with now since Ron Fail has retired. Archbishop Cloud, we went out to lunch once and we sat there and discussed a bunch of stuff before I went off on an investigation at Santa Rosa Rural Cemetery a little later on that night after we'd done an exorcism in a house. So, that was our meeting right there in that Mexican food restaurant. It was good food.
That is a religious experience sometimes.
It is. It can be.
Depending on the right restaurant.
Right.
So.
Right. Exactly. It was pretty good, though.
So I'm kind of glad you brought that up as far as the religious side of things, because my curiosity is always piqued when, Joe, you and I have had the conversation in the past that you don't believe demons were ever a living being. Okay.
Right.
So if they were never a living being, why does religion play such a role in exercising them?
What is an angel? Has an angel ever been a living being?
If you believe in the true meaning of angels, I guess no, they haven't been.
Yeah, exactly. They never were. So demons are basically fallen angels, correct? Well, or offspring of fallen angels, et cetera, however that works. But
right.
It's the opposite side of God, pride and all that other stuff kicked a bunch of them out of there. So now we've got that, we've got this. Why would they be any different than an angel if they used to be an angel?
So do you think, if there's somebody that doesn't believe in God or doesn't have a religion, can they ever be affected by demons?
How about a jinn in the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith? A jinn is basically kind of like a demon. Okay. But it's not, of course, that is one of the Abrahamic religions. So it's kind of like, okay, there's a lot of connections and things, but a jinn is kind of a demon, and it's not the same kind of a demon that the Christians believe in. Not quite the same, but it's there. We had a case in LA in San Fernando Valley that a guy had been in Afghanistan for a number of tours. And he came back and he was being bothered by something. It turned out to be what we thought was a jinn. So it had followed him back, attached to him, and followed him back. The Catholic priest that I called and said, "Hey, can you go bless this guy's house for me?" He got in, walked around, got about 3/4 of the way through the house, blessing it. Not a very big place, 1 bedroom upstairs and, living room, kitchen downstairs. That's really it. And he gets down into the kitchen and goes, "Oh, I'm done. I can't stand this anymore." And he just leaves the place. He couldn't do it anymore. So there was something in there that was really strong and more than what that priest's blessing would do. So I went back out there again, talked with the guy. He told me what had happened with the priest because the priest wouldn't talk to me anymore. And so I went back into Riverside, and I got a friend of mine who is a Muslim and said, "Hey, can I talk to your imam?" And he introduced me to him, and we had a long conversation. I said, "Do you want to make a trip to San Fernando Valley?" And he goes, "Sure, let's go." Off we went, and he went through, and he did a bunch of prayers and things and took care of the situation. It was done. But the Catholic priest couldn't do it, or he didn't have the oomph or the knowledge or whatever it needed to be done. But the imam came in, and within 30 minutes or so, we had that place cleared out. Like I said, it wasn't very big. So he went in and did his thing, and he was done. So it worked out quite well. And it was totally different. Like if you have a Jewish group that has a possessed individual, some sort of a demon is possessing them, you need 13 men and a rabbi with a shofar, and you blow that shofar and you say your prayers and things, and that's what drives that demon out. There's different things for different faiths, and demons exist or they don't? What is it? Could it be some being, an offspring of a god, or something? It depends on what the people believe in.
Right.
And I know the people in my exorcist group, they tell me I'm completely wrong, and all I need is the faith of God, faith in God and the strength of God to do this stuff. But that story with the imam tells me that Catholic priest couldn't do it.
Right.
Just because it wasn't of the same faith. It wasn't of the same belief structure. And I think the guy who came back from Afghanistan knew that it was something he picked up over there. So why would a Christian prayer fix the Muslim issue? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
At least that's kind of what I've been thinking all these years. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
It's like
I may be completely wrong.
You drive a Chevy and you only believe in Chevys. You need a
right.
Chevy mechanic to take care of your Chevy. So
right.
Even though it drives just like a Dodge, in my opinion,
right.
But you're always going to, if you're a Dodge person, then you're going to have to find a good Dodge mechanic to take care of that car. So, but, it's all the same thing, just.
You're right. It's just different bits, Mm-hmm. The engine's put together a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't aware that there were exorcism in other religious cultures either. I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You go into all sorts of different stuff. Most religions have some sort of procedure to get rid of some evil entity. Not necessarily a demon, but an evil entity. Whatever that happens to be.
Right, right.
Because there is evil in the world, and most religions believe that there's evil in the world.
I believe there's evil.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely evil in the world.
Right now.
Yeah.
Just look at what's going on around us right now. A lot of that is pure evil.
Yep, exactly.
So we need to do an exorcism on the whole country now.
Now, who would do that?
I don't know. That'd take a lot of people, I think.
Right. Exactly. That's funny. So, so not only were you in the Navy, not only are you a paranormal investigator and a student in demonology, but you're also an author, which is really cool. But your books are fascinating, and I'm still going to pick up 13 because I'm excited to read those stories. I love the cover, but I love the idea because I've always liked. I remember Tales from the Crypt and Goosebumps and all those those little shows that were on. They were all just little short stories, and that's what I love. I love little short stories. But so what kind of got you into writing? What made you want to start writing?
My dad.
Okay.
Yeah, Dad always wanted to be an author. Always wanted to write. And he wrote things all the time. He wrote things, and he'd have notebooks full of ideas and things. And as far as I know, he never completed anything. He was always working on something, and then he moved to something else and work on this. And he was a golfer. He played golf all the time, and he worked on his investments and he did his thing. And when he found time, he'd write. Mm-hmm. And I would read some of the things that he wrote. And I said, "Oh, that is awesome! I can't believe he thought of that. That's so imaginative."
Right.
And then I started writing, and I wrote a book when I was in the Navy back in the late 80s. I wrote this book on a computer that we had there, like a Commodore 64 type thing on a word processing machine, and sat there and I typed it all up. And it was okay. It needed a lot of work, but it was a first draft, and it wasn't bad. And then the machine crashed, and I never got the book back, and I've never been able to write it again. So I had tried, and I tried. I could picture the battle scenes, and I could picture all this stuff, and I just can't get the story right again. One day maybe I will, but that's always irked me, and I lost that. Mm-hmm. So about 2013 or so, I decided to get kind of serious, and I was sitting at work one day trying to solve an issue with some equipment and procedure for trying to fix this thing that we were trying to work on. And I've had an image of some kids in the attic of their house. They think they saw a ghost. And then what would they do about that? How would they handle that?
Right.
You know, blah, 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 blah. And pretty soon I start coming up with this idea that there's this kid named Will, main character, and then a brother and sister who are identical twins, just to throw that bit into it. And so we've got the three of them, best friends. You know, they used to go skating all the time, and they'd go swimming all the time, hang out with each other all the time. And they, summer started. They're planning on going into the backyard of the twins' house and then go to the swimming pool. So they run upstairs to get their stuff, and they think they see a ghost run across the attic. What's that? What was that? So they go downstairs and they talk to the sister, and the three of them are talking. I said, well, you know, they do that stuff on TV. Maybe we should try it. We can do it just like they do. And, you know, that's kind of neat. So they asked the dad, can we have this investigation? We'll stay over. Can we do this investigation? And dad sort of smiles a little bit and says, sure. You know, and here's my old cassette recorder. You can use that. And here's a couple of blank tapes, etc. And they get going. And then Will goes back down to his house for dinner, helps his dad set up. His mom had passed away a while back. And so they're just the two guys living together. And he brings it up to his dad. Hey, can I stay over at the twins' house and do this? And dad says, he kind of smiles a little bit and says, sure. You know, do you need anything? Oh, can I borrow your camera? So he takes his old film camera out and goes. And between them, they have some equipment. And they're up in the attic that night, and they're recording and flipping the tapes and recording and putting new tapes in, and, you know, is asking questions the whole time. And then at the very end, they're all tired about midnight 30. Will decides he's going to go flip that tape one more time and go down and go to sleep. And he flips it over, and he thinks he hears something with his ears, but he wasn't too sure. So he just goes down and goes to sleep. The next morning, the parents all meet up with them and reveal that they used to be paranormal investigators back in the day, and they had to give it up because they were raising the kids and you know, didn't want to be out all the time. The kids being raised by the babysitter. Right. So they just gave up for a while. And the kids are like, oh, that is cool. So they help them go through the evidence that they came up with. And at the very end of that last tape, when Will thought he had heard something, well, at the beginning of that last tape, when he flipped it and started it, Will thought he heard something. He says, help us, Will. And then the adventure starts. Right. They start going, what the heck? And they're trying to figure out what's going on. And it takes a team of people to figure it out and get it done. But it was kind of fun coming up with that and coming up with a fix for it and everything. It was a lot of fun to write that story.
That's cool.
It took about 2 years.
And that was the Blue Orb, right?
That was the Blue Orb by J.E. Thompson. You know? And 13, the one with the cool cover, it's just a series of 13 short stories of different stuff. It's all paranormal of some sort or the other. You know, having a ghost kid there and you need to help cross him over, or trying to figure out where these roses show up every, you know, Sunday on a grave, and nobody ever sees anybody deliver them. They weren't there 10 minutes ago. Why are they there now? That kind of thing. And yeah, it's a whole bunch of different short stories of different things in the paranormal world. And some of it, I've used things that have happened to us in our investigations in the story just a little bit. Some of it's there, but then the rest of it's fiction and to work around that. Mm-hmm. So, but that was 3 months in the making, 4 months in the making, that book, because the short stories were just right there. I mean, just sit down and then clean them up a week later, you know, after you've had been away from it a little bit, go in and reread it, clean it up. So that was kind of fun one to write.
I'm anxious to see those.
You'll have to buy it too.
Yeah. I have to. I haven't seen the cover yet, so
I'll show you the cover. The cover's really cool, and we'll post it up here too on the show. But I know one of your stories you talked about was about fairies. Wasn't that what it was about?
Yeah.
So
that came about. It's called the Summer Court, and I was in Inverness, Scotland, and my brother and sister-in-law and I had gone over there. We met up down by Stirling, and we both flew in at different times. I went up to Aberdeen by train and then came down and met them at Stirling when they arrived. And then, because I wanted to see Aberdeen, there was a pub I wanted to visit. And so we meet up. My sister-in-law is sick. She ate something on the plane that disagreed with her. So she went to bed, and my brother and I went down and we hit the pubs and had a great time that night. But we ran around doing that. And then we spent a week in Ballater, Braemar, right up in the Cairngorms National Forest. Then they dropped me off in Inverness, and they went up to Wick in northern Scotland on their honeymoon. So we kind of had that week together before they went off to spend a week together themselves. Well, I'm in Inverness, and I wanted to go down to Urquhart Castle. I wanted to go see Droghton Dramit. I wanted to see all sorts of stuff and look for Nessie myself, etc. All the stuff, tourist stuff. Yeah. So I started doing that. And on the way down, I get stopped on the bus. I'm on the bus, and I get stopped at the Caledonia Canal while the bridge is swinging so a sailboat could go through. And I happen to look to the side, and there's a tombstone right there on the other side of this hedge. Cool. And I look above the hedge, and there's a big hill. It's a big round hill. I'm thinking that is the strangest shaped hill I've ever seen.
Right.
And so when I get back, I go and I talk to the lady at the hotel desk. Hey, I was going out and by the Caledonia Canal, I saw this hill out there with a cemetery. Oh, you mean the Fairy Mound? Yeah, okay, so what's up with that? We've always called it the Fairy Mound. And of course, that popped an idea into my head, thinking, well, wouldn't that be neat if it was like where the fairies lived in the summertime, and then they go back down to London in the wintertime where it's slightly warmer, and they've got their place or wherever they're at down there. And I started thinking, well, why would I get involved in this? They'd be doing their own thing. Right. So this guy takes his guitar up there and he sits on this bench that's actually there at the top of the hill that overlooks, you can look out and see Loch Ness out there and everything. It's a beautiful view. See the Caledonia Canal, see the boats going through the bridge and the twisty bridge and everything. It's really quite cool. But he used to have really bad headaches all the time, like migraines. And he'd go up there, sit down and play his guitar for a little while and fall asleep. Of course, the fairies are on watch around their summer court, their summer place. And this one fairy kind of falls in love with the guy. And she'd cure his headache every time he'd come up there with a bad headache. He'd wake up, feel so good, and then go about his business and come back up, and a week later when his head was hurting again. And this one of the fairies didn't like the guy at all. And you're an idiot for liking him. He's human. What the world, blah, 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 blah. And it starts kind of an argument between the two of them. And things happen where the bad fairy is trying to do bad things to the guy, and the good fairy is trying to make him feel better, and chaos ensues. It's kind of a neat little story. And that's about as far as I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, you don't want to give it away.
No, but the place exists. It's like a derby hat. You've got this fairy mound that's round, and there's tombstones all on the paths all the way up. And then around it, like the brim of a hat, is more tombstones every place. It just seems kind of strange. The earliest one that I found there was 1420.
Oh, wow.
Which was quite a while ago, you know?
Yeah.
It's an old cemetery. But I just love the shape. You walk all the way around. It's just this big round, like the crown of a derby hat.
Yeah.
Just cool. And they've called it the Fairy Mound for as long as anybody can remember.
So does that culture over there that they actually believe that fairies existed? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Huh.
Oh, yes. And Scotland, too. Scotland, Ireland, too, Northern Ireland. And a lot of England does, too. And a lot of them won't even talk about it. So, yeah. And it may be that they believe, but they don't want to make people think that they do, right? It's hard to say. But the culture over there that I've found, the people that I've talked to have all been, yep, I know they're there. I believe in them. things like that. The fairies, the leprechauns, the dwarves, all of those little creatures. It was there from the beginning of their island. People coming to the islands and living there. Ancient history.
We did that. We did a gnome episode a couple seasons back, and I know one of the stories that I brought up was from I think it was from Wilmington, about the gnomes that drove around in little cars that the kids saw, and they were having a great time. You know, I don't know if you've heard that story or not.
I don't know.
Wilmington just sounds familiar, but I could be wrong.
It's possible. I'm always looking for little stories like that because, you know, you take them, you twist them, you take bits and pieces out of them and throw them in yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
cool.
always fun.
Yeah. That story, from what I remember, some kids were there just.
Was it in the park?
It was a park, but I don't know if they were there with the school or something, but some kids were off from the rest of the group, and they say they saw these little creatures that were driving around in little bubble-looking cars, just kind of chasing each other. And when they interviewed the kids separately and had them draw pictures, they all, you know, pretty much drew the same kind of thing. And it was interesting. That was
a fun episode to do. That was cool.
Do you remember the fairies that they filmed in England in the late 1800s, early 1900s? And these two little girls had all these fairies that were all around. It was a famous thing. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, was like, that's awesome. And he went to investigate, and other people investigated. Later on, the girls fessed up that they had really made it up, and the photographs were faked and everything. But that goes to show you that at the time, it was like, yes, well, that's real. Those are fairies. And that's what happened. You know, Victorian time and things like that. But I know for a fact that now still, just like ghosts, you know, people believe in ghosts. And I did an investigation with a group up in Belfast at St. Comgall School in Belfast. And it was a British spot during the Troubles, where British soldiers would be inside there. One of them was shot through the door by a Northern Ireland character, shot him and killed him through the crack in the door while he was standing inside. There's the caretaker died in there, or died at home and went back. He liked the place so much, he was still taking care of the place. And there's a couple of children in there, but they went in after our investigation. A few months later, I got a copy of the clip, and they had filmed a little girl walking along the hallway, stopped at the top of the stairs, turned around and looked at them, and then went inside and went down the stairs. It was just so cool. And the place, you could feel the energy in the place.
Yeah.
It was so awesome, but it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Very cool.
Deirdre and Owen, they were great people. We got the tour of the Troubles. You know, we went to the cemeteries. We went to the International Wall. We saw all the stuff that happened and where things happened, and like the Sinn Féin building where the Sinn Féin group was working. Owen said he was just standing there outside on the sidewalk right outside the Sinn Féin building by the trash bags, and he was waiting for his friend to show up. So his friend comes down the hill on a bicycle, and he goes, okay, cool. And they walk up. He crosses the street, starts going up the hill with his friend, and a bomb goes off right by where he was standing. There was a bomb stuck in the trash, blew up, knocked a hole in the wall and things like that. He said he could have been killed right then and there, and that would have been it. I wouldn't have gotten my tour, you know. But you know, of course, he survived. He was half a block up when it went off. But, you know, just the dangerous stuff. Yeah. It was crazy. but I got the tour and did all that, and we did a number of pints, and then went and did the investigation the next night. And then my son and I got the tour of, and his half brother Chris went with us, and we went on a tour up the Antrim coast with Ann Jordan, and we had an absolute wonderful time up there. Went up to the Giant's Causeway and walked around there and took pictures, and absolutely wonderful. Did another pint up there at the top, and just had a great time. Not enough pints in a day.
No mega pints.
No mega pints or mega pints either.
So what's a bucket list for you? What are some places you want to hit that you haven't seen yet?
I have never been to Eastern Europe, other than I went to Yugoslavia when I was in the Navy. We pulled in there, went to Dubrovnik. I've been there twice. We went to Stari Grad, the old city. That was absolutely gorgeous. It was so clean you could eat off the stones in the street. So gorgeous. But I would like to go up to Czech Republic. I'd like to go to Hungary, Romania, of course, into Transylvania, things like that. That whole area up into Poland, and as much as I possibly can in Eastern Europe. I'd like to go into Russia and look around because there's stories up there like crazy, ghost stories and things like that. But that's my big one right now. I still want to go to Australia and see if I can touch foot on Antarctica. And that'll give me 7 continents. So I haven't been to Australia yet, and I haven't been to Antarctica. So if I could do those 2, I could say 7 continents, and that'd be 48 different countries then. And then I do my Eastern Europe and be real happy. Try to get up to 50 countries I've been to, or 52 maybe.
That'd be cool.
So, how many countries have I been in? Let's see. 2. Yeah. 2, 1 continent.
I've only been
Mexico.
Mexico in here.
Yeah. I lucked out. The Navy took me all over the place, all over the Mediterranean. And then I had my job after the Navy took me a few places, like around in the Caribbean. And then the job after that took me to South America, Central America, Mexico, and then just all over the place. I went to Pakistan for them as well. So, and wound up in Dubai, and then wound up in Istanbul for the 23rd time, I think. But it was neat because there was a family that ran the USO there, and they would be there every single time we did pull in. We'd pull into Istanbul, and that family would be there, and be Mama and Papa and the kids. And they would get us tickets for whatever we needed, a tour, if we needed directions to the Turkish bath, or we needed, where is this place, or where's a good restaurant. They'd write notes down for us on paper in Turkish, give that to the cab guy, and use this one to get back. So we'd stick it in our pocket and off we'd go. And they were always good to us. Well, this last time I was in Istanbul, I had found one of the kids, the Mama and Papa's kids, on some chat program. And we started talking, and I verified that it was him, Mama and Papa and the whole 9 yards. Gave me the other names of the kids and stuff. And Tamer and I started chatting. I said, well, I'm going to be in Istanbul for this week. And he went, oh, my God, I'm going to tell Mama. So I showed up, but I was a day late. So he had been hanging out at my hotel waiting for me. And finally he went back home. And I got there the next day, and the front desk clerk said, there's this kid, college kid, is just running around driving me crazy, wanting to talk to you. I'm like, okay. So if he shows up, let me know, because I didn't have any way of getting in touch with him except through that app, and I didn't have a computer with me. So this was back in 99 or 2000, something like that. So no, it was later than that. It was 2003 or 2004. But we're there, and then I get a call from the front desk. He said, that kid's back again. I said, I'll be right down. So I get down there, and here he is. He used to be like 9 or so when I knew him. He was just one of the kids. He'd get us beers and stuff. And then now he's college age. He's doing IT in school and all that stuff. It's like, this is awesome.
That's cool.
And so we went out and had a few beers. And then the next night, he said, Mama wants to see us. So we took the train out, and we took the bus out, and we took a taxi, and we did another thing. It took us like an hour and a half to get there. And I was really feeling sorry for him back and forth coming to look for me that first day. It's like, oh, God, I really feel bad. But we got out there to Mama's place, and she just like, oh, my gosh, so good to see you. He gave me the big hug and everything. And Papa had already passed. But we're out there, chit-chatting and having a big old wonderful meal and everything. But just the people you meet while you're over in these places. Yeah. And they stay with you forever, I got friends in France and Italy and Spain and all over the place that I could just go to and say, hi, how are you? And it's like, oh my gosh. And just, spend time with them and talk some more. It was always fun.
Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't ever get that opportunity.
No.
So, yeah.
No, that's
I just have friends in low places.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you ever get the chance, go. I mean, even people listening, if you ever get the chance to go someplace, go. It's not that expensive to go spend a week in Italy. $1,300 maybe. Maybe a little bit more than that, depending on gas prices and things. But you can go places and spend a week someplace relatively cheap. So explore, go see.
Might have to start my bucket list.
Yeah.
You never know.
Be brave. That's one thing. I've got a friend who wouldn't go any place because he was afraid of what to do. He didn't know what to do. He's afraid of going someplace.
Yeah.
And then he was working with me, and we had to travel to Mexico City 3 or 4 times, and Ecuador, and Honduras, and Nicaragua, and a few of these places. And he's like, started loosening up. Even just going to D.C., he had a hard time with. Right. So after these trips, he started getting more and more used to it and realizing it's not as tough as it is and not nearly as scary as it is, or as he thinks it is. And then we just had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I love talking to you, Joe, and that's why
you guys need more beer
to have you on. Yeah, exactly.
I finished mine before I came out here. I was sitting there at dinner and finished my beer and just left it sitting in there in the glass. So it's like, darn it.
Yeah, we use these as like timepieces.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like
and when it's empty, it's time to go.
Yeah, I guess. Well, or it's time for another one, but
yeah.
We don't have another one.
Don't have another one.
But we definitely have to. Let's plan some investigations together. We really need to.
Well, Tony and Cherie and I, the Rathmans and I, and Dylan, of course, we're thinking about taking his ITC equipment, which is awesome stuff, and going up to 2 guns and setting up in the Death Cave up there.
Okay.
Setting up his ITC equipment in the Death Cave.
That would be cool.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah. So cool. just to see what happens, see what we get.
Yeah.
And we'll hit some of the other places too, like the zoo where 2 Guns actually lived, and he set up that zoo, and a couple of the couples that did this and that and set up the stores and things. We'll go to those places too and do the ITC. But I've done EVPs down in the death caves, and I never really got anything or anything that I noticed. But I'm wondering if with that ITC equipment, as clear as it is, and using the static and all that, if we'll get anything really good.
Yeah.
And what language will it be in?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah, he was telling us, somebody was telling, I think it was his partner, Ron. They were telling us they went down into these mines and they were using that ITC stuff, and there's no reception or nothing, so they're not going to get any interference from anything, and they were getting stuff crystal clear, and that's just crazy.
Yeah,
pretty
no
cool technology
whatsoever.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. So, well, cool. Well, we appreciate you jumping on with us tonight, and
always hopefully
you'll be in touch with us. If you go out and do some investigations, we'd love to go with you.
Yeah,
certainly.
Pleasure.
I know I would like to take some. I'm going to set up ITC equipment myself. I got a laptop sitting around here doing nothing. I'm going to put it on there and practice with it, get it set up to where I know it's working. I was thinking about going down to Millville, and the Millville, and I can't remember the name of the other town right across the river from it, but that's where they used to do all the stamping for tombstones ore. They bring the ore down to Millville, which was a little bit south of there, crush it, get the gold out of it and take the bullion up to Tucson in wagons. But I think there's a lot of stuff. It was a crazy town, right across the river from Millville. I want to say Clarkville. I just don't remember anymore. But that one active brain cell gets me every time. But I want to go down there and set up some ITC equipment and listen down there. Supposedly Wyatt Earp had gone down there looking for the McClantons or the Clantons and stuff like that. And the Clantons Ranch is right around the corner from that.
Oh, really?
And just some adobe buildings are left. Well, partial adobe buildings are left. could be fascinating. Go down there and do a little investigation around that area.
That'd be cool.
So, yeah. So, I mean, those are places I'd like to go. So, if we could set up a multi-team effort and go down there and do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be a blast. I'd be in for it. And if you happen to be here in town,
I happen to be around, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You ever get to the Dallas, Texas area?
I used to do that all the time. Mom and Dad used to live in East Texas, and we'd drive through there on occasion, or fly into Houston, either Houston or Dallas, and drive.
Mm-hmm.
They were outside of Jasper at Lake Sam Rayburn. So
cool.
But yeah, that was Dallas is a nice area. My ex-sister-in-law lives there in that area.
Yeah,
she's cool. If she comes up on haunted locations, I'll go visit her, and then we can all go. Right
there, you go.
Yeah. There's got to be lots of stuff around there.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Oh yeah, there is. Of course. I mean, go to Waco. There's got to be something in Waco.
I guarantee it. Yeah,
Waco's not too far, and then I hear the stockyards in
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth are really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff around there. A lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
The cattle runs from down south, going up in there, and all the bars, the brothels, and everything else that happened, and just go find an area where that stuff was and investigate.
Yeah,
there's a lot of country graveyards around where I live.
Is there?
Yes.
I'm living, yeah.
I noticed that down around Jasper too.
Mm-hmm.
Drive down the road, you'll see a sign that says, "So it's such and such cemetery," and then 5 miles out, such and such cemetery, and they're 3 miles down the road, and little fenced-in area. Awesome.
Yeah, they're really interesting looking.
See, you got some places.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, fun stuff. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's plan on it.
All right.
Oh. Yeah, right. Need a beer?
No, I need a beer to take care of that.
Well, cool. Well, thanks, Joe. Thanks for jumping on with us. It's a pleasure talking to you again, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Certainly. Let's do it. And I guess that's about it. I thought I had something else to bring up, but I think I'm done. Babbling.
Hey, there can always be a part 2.
Sure. I'm available most anytime now that school is getting over with next week. So yeah, I'm available. I'm going to be working on my book. I'm trying to get book number 3 out by at least to the editor's publisher by September, maybe early October. Trying to get that done, and I'm going to put together another short story book. I've got a number of books, another number of stories ready to go. Just put them in the right order and clean them up a little bit and put them in there. Maybe I'll have Danny do another cover for me. It'd be like 13 more tales.
There you go. That'd be cool.
Well, that's when we'll have to have him back on again.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, there you go. We can do that for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. But hopefully we see you before then. Do some investigating with you.
Oh yes, let's do it. Maybe some out at Globe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. We can definitely hook that up.
Get Will together and get that done.
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
All righty.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have a great evening.
Yeah.
I will do.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one. Be safe out there.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.